How fitting is it that just a few days after I make my dumb walking down the street while asking a hypothetical question video to you, that this comes out. This comes out, and this is a combination of two prime sources over here. We're talking about two different things. We're talking about, first off, Vancouver Radio, where Loui Eriksson's agent JP Barry stepped on and had a few words, and we're also talking about Elliotte Friedman and the 31 Thoughts podcast, where he goes a little bit in depth on Loui Eriksson as well. Now, if you've been out of the loop and you don't know what exactly it is I'm talking about here, we're talking about Vancouver Canucks $6 million man Loui Eriksson, who is on the decline in his career and who has been the heavy subject of potential trade talks amongst the fan base, amongst the media, etc. Now, yesterday, I was listening to Sportsnet 650 and they talked about JP Barry. This is Loui Eriksson's agent, and they showcased some of the comments that he had to say in regards to Loui Eriksson upon being available to the media. I don't actually have a source for that, I just remember hearing it yesterday, so let's go over on the TSN instead, because they have an actual article and another audio excerpt that is available on their website. Loui Eriksson's agent, JP Barry, admitted Wednesday that the veteran's future with the Canucks remains up in the air after a meeting with GM Jim Benning last month. Skipping a few paragraphs and going over into the next spot over here, this is a quote directly from JP Barry. "I think we're all just working together to look for a solution, really, is what we've been doing. It's not an easy thing. I think any kind of transaction would have to involve a player on another team in a similar situation, and we all know that. So we've all looked around the league, and this could be the time of year. Those changes could still happen over the next several weeks." Now, just off of my memory, I'm pretty sure that's like exactly what I heard on Sportsnet, so let's just go with this. JP Barry, the agent of Loui Eriksson, is coming out and saying, yeah, a trade is probably on the horizon. We've looked at all options. We're looking and exploring even more options. And it's something that I listened to and I was like, okay, nice. Very nice. Because we did talk about it earlier, Loui Eriksson is probably the one guy that everybody knows needs a change of scenery and probably does not exhibit the best play style with the Vancouver Canucks in terms of production and overall morale amongst the fan base and the rest of the team. So it was very refreshing to acknowledge the fact that JP Barry, the agent, is being very open about this on the media, and big props to that, honestly. It takes a lot to stand up and acknowledge that your client isn't in the best predicament in a certain time, so big ups to Barry for that. Let's go over now to Elliotte Friedman and the 31 Thoughts podcast. Now, as it is a podcast, it is audio copyrighted material. I'm not going to play that for you. I'm going to look at this tweet over here from Account for Hockey on Twitter. He quoted a whole bunch of stuff from the podcast. He says here that Friedman says Eriksson and Vancouver both want to figure out a trade. Vancouver is threatening demotion to Utica if he isn't flexible with his no-trade clause. Now, just in case you don't actually trust Account for Hockey on Twitter with a whole bunch of information, let's go over onto our Canucks. They posted this exact tweet onto the subreddit, and some people were kind of asking, okay, the legitimacy behind the Twitter account, what is that? So somebody actually quoted Elliotte Friedman and his comments on the podcast. I'm going to read out what Elliotte Friedman said. It's hard not to look at Vancouver's cap situation and say, okay, what have they got planned here? Somebody's going out, and what I think you're looking at is with Loui Eriksson. He wants to go, and they want him to go. You know, he's got some control over the situation with his clauses. I think what they're kind of telling him is if he doesn't play ball, he could end up in Utica. That's kind of where we are in this particular point in time. They're going to have to do something, and I think that whole market is kind of fascinating with what it's going to be. So, with all the comments and the pieces of information we've acknowledged over the past little bit, there is no way in heck Loui Eriksson is on this team to start off this season in October. He is not going to be on this team. Whether or not he's in the Utica comment system because he refused to waive, or he's on a different team entirely because the team forced him to waive with the threat of going to Utica as the compensation. There's a lot to be looking forward to if you're looking for Loui Eriksson's contract to not being on the Vancouver Canucks next season. Because we actually do need to take a look at it and understand that, yeah, they are in a position where they're going to have to sign Brock Besser, and they're going to have to get Goldolben back, and Eriksson is one of the most observed pieces in terms of assets that they have that could ultimately catalyze Brock Besser and Goldolben's contracts coming back the other way. So, this was a quick little update on Loui Eriksson and the contract situation and the trade proposals and all that. Hope you enjoyed this quick little video. So, and bye.